Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for tuning in. First and foremost, happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Stay safe on the roads. You always have to stay safe, especially during holidays. But God bless you all. I want to read you, ladies and gentlemen, hit subscribe first and foremost to this channel right now. Biden admin continues to conceal Crossfire Hurricane records. Grassley Johnson push for transparency more than a year after ordered disclosure of DOJ activity. After President Trump ordered disclosure of DOJ activity. Okay. So, President Trump, before he left office in his first tenure as president, and hit subscribe to this channel, I'm going to explain what's going to happen the next 4 years. First of all, J.D. Vance is going to go, he's going to win 28 and go 4 years. We're looking at least 8 years of Trump Republicans taking over the United States government. Thank God. We had Democrats who presided over inflation, soaring inflation, interest rates that doubled, mortgage rates doubled, and actually inflation soared to 9%. Really quickly, this is a fact that morally superior, highly educated liberal Democrats cannot refute. Mortgage rates more than doubled under Biden and Harris. Then you have the same electorate choosing Harris, saying we can't afford a house. Well, you vote against your interests. Mortgage rates doubled. Okay, they were less than half of what they were now under Trump. And then interest rates, mortgage rates doubled, interest rates increased exponentially, and that was because inflation was runaway. Initially, they said inflation would only be temporary. Then they said, oh, we're going to pass $1 trillion or, hundreds of billions of dollars in the Inflation Reduction Act. Then it didn't work, and they ended up raising interest rates and flooding the country full of millions of barrels of strategic petroleum reserves as they pontificate about the environment. But anyway, that's another story. Hit subscribe to this channel. Number 1, Trump is going to declassify a lot of information. You will hear from the new Central Intelligence Chief. So we have, thank God, incoming Trump administration, and 4 years in 28, we have 8 years of a great economy, or a much better economy, and a much better foreign policy, or a great foreign policy. I'll deal with much better, so we don't have to contend with possible nuclear confrontation every day. But number 1 is going to declassify information. Why is that important? And to my super chat, thank you. Declassifying information is going to be key to indicting a number of people who set up and framed Trump. They were withholding information. Okay, they're withholding information because they want to hide how they set up and framed Trump. So let's just go ahead really quickly. We'll hear from John Ratcliffe right now. This is extremely important because the declassification process allows Trump, Pam Bondi at the DOJ, Ratcliffe at Central Intelligence, the new Federal Bureau of Investigation Director Chief, and others, a special prosecutor, Matt Gaetz, likely, a special counsel, numerous special counsels. It allows them to see the motive, because what Democrats and media and former officials say is, well, there was no motive. It was all national security concerns. Nothing could be further from the truth. Accusing Trump of working with another country because Clinton lost swing states in 2016 is the antithesis of national security concerns. Not one person altered their choice between Trump and Clinton because of the Kremlin. But let's start with Ratcliffe and his view of how Crossfire Hurricane and how former Bureau officials possibly broke the law.
support an effort to remove the president from office. That is according to former top FBI lawyer James Baker in a closed-door testimony to Congress last fall. Baker said he was told by senior Justice Department officials that Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein spoke of the two cabinet officials' support. I want to bring in right now Republican Congressman John Ratcliffe from Texas. He is a member of the Homeland Security and Judicial.
Ratcliffe is now the Central Intelligence Chief. We've gone from John Brennan to John Ratcliffe. This is an enormous sea change. It's like basically going from a baseball team with Jerry Nadler to Babe Ruth.
Judiciary committees, as well as oversight. And sir, it is good to see you on the program this morning. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning, Maria.
We want to get your take on this story. You are a former federal prosecutor, Congressman, and we learned some information this week on two fronts. The Senate told us that there was no collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia after 2 years of investigating this. And number two, Andrew McCabe, the former deputy director at the FBI, in an interview with 60 Minutes tonight, said that he launched the investigation into President Trump. Your reaction?
Well, as to the collusion issue, the Senate just confirmed what the House and every other investigative committee has found, which is no evidence of collusion. And as you mentioned, Maria, the only person in Washington so far that says they have evidence of collusion between Donald Trump and the Trump campaign and Russia is Adam Schiff. And of course, he says that is evidence that is neither direct evidence or circumstantial evidence, which are the only two types of evidence that exist in the law. So we'll wait on that. But as to the issue of Andy McCabe, he may be a disgraced former FBI agent who's been criminally referred for lying, but he's going to make at least one truthful statement in this interview tonight. Many of us have been saying for the last year that senior leaders at the FBI and the Department of Justice have been secretly investigating Donald Trump and trying to remove him from office. Tonight, Andy McCabe will tell you that he and other senior leaders at the Department of Justice and the FBI were secretly investigating Donald Trump and trying to remove him from office. Now, once you get past that one truthful statement, the rest of his story, frankly, has bigger holes in it than the Titanic.
Well, I mean, look, we heard from Bruce Ohr in that other testimony a couple of weeks ago when he...
So the incoming Central Intelligence chief, John Ratcliffe, that's the person you're listening to now. Okay, the entire intelligence community is now Trump Republican, just like the entire intelligence community was loyal to President Obama and Biden and Bush. And so when you have this nonsense about the DOJ being independent, Eric Holder and another Democratic Attorney General, Merrick Garland, were both held in contempt of Congress for withholding information that would have been detrimental to the Democratic presidents they worked under. Then you had Attorney General Loretta Lynch meeting with Bill Clinton as Hillary Clinton was interviewed by bureau agents, one of whom I believe was a part of setting up and framing Michael Flynn. And so now you have a man, John Ratcliffe, in addition to the next head of the Federal Bureau of Investigation and Pam Bondi as the Attorney General, declassifying information. Okay, so President Trump now has people who will declassify when he says, hey, declassify this, who will declassify information leading to motive, leading to potential law-breaking or illegal activity. It was not legal or lawful to set up and frame an incoming president based on a dossier purchased by Hillary Clinton. The Steele dossier, led to an FEC fine. It was so illegal that even using campaign funding for it was not lawful. Okay? And Trump was, of course, the one convicted of a campaign finance issue in New York when New York has no right to actually convict based on a federal statute that wasn't even leveled by the FEC. The federal statute was leveled against Democrats by the FEC, not against Trump with the Steele dossier. But they utilized a phony, fake, absurd hoax, and people still believe it. Then they talk about how, Trump supporters and Trump are not educated. The highly educated among us believe fantasies, things that are category patently false. There was not even a shred of evidence that Trump ever was working with the Kremlin. And then they grasp at straws saying, well, Manafort or somebody used opposition research. And so tell us how that related to one person altering their votes in swing states. It didn't. That's the point. So now you have this man who knows exactly what all the players, all the characters, all the culprits, all the suspects in this grandiose plot to really, undo Trump's presidency.
He did tell us that, in fact, he met with the Fusion GPS founder as early as August of 2016, and we did get that testimony was quite illuminating in terms of what did go on.
It did, and we've gotten a lot of testimony. As you pointed out, Maria, as a former federal prosecutor, I will tell you that as a conspiracy starts to unravel, sometimes the co-conspirators turn on one another, and you get inconsistent testimony. Bruce Ohr's testimony is inconsistent with his boss, Sally Yates. Andy McCabe's testimony is inconsistent with his boss, Jim Comey. Jim Comey's testimony is inconsistent with his lawyer, Jim Baker. McCabe's testimony is also inconsistent with Rod Rosenstein. So you have all of these things that were taking place, and again, it underscores the point that
these are all perjury charges, and if the statute of limitations have run out, they can simply demand that all these people testify again in a special counsel. And if their answers don't coincide, then they will have committed perjury. This is exactly what Democrats did, except Trump would actually go after the specific law that they're accused of having broken. Unlike Democrats who said, oh, you lied to a bureau agent. That had nothing to do with the underlying accusation, which was that they were all working with the Kremlin to undermine Clinton, which you'd have to be a complete imbecile to believe.
There were senior officials at the Department of Justice that were the same officials that had undermined and prejudged Hillary Clinton as innocent, prejudged Donald Trump as guilty, and they were the ones making the decisions in these investigations.
So here we are beginning week one for the new Attorney General. He is now in the job, Bill Barr. Tell us about what you're expecting from him, because people would like to see accountability. And we should point out that Andrew McCabe is doing this interview around his book, but he has already been referred to by the Inspector General for criminal charges.
Yeah, so let's go back to Andy McCabe and what you're going to hear tonight. One of the things he's going to say is that he started this investigation when Jim Comey got fired on May the 9th because he believed that order may have come from Vladimir Putin and that Donald Trump was acting as an agent of the Russian government in carrying out that order. The problem for Andy McCabe is every newspaper in America reported that 8 days later, on May 17th of 2017, Andy McCabe was one of 4 people to walk into the Oval Office and interview with Donald Trump to become the FBI director. So how do you go from, I think you're an agent of the Russian government committing treason, to 8 days later, I think you're an agent of the Russian government committing treason, but I'd sure love a job working for you every day. So,
and this is another really stupid thing that media and Democrats have furthered. They said that Trump altered U.S. foreign policy to appease another country. But nothing could be further from the truth. You choose a different candidate or president. When Trump defeated Clinton, the American people chose his foreign policy. That's why you have a presidential contest every 4 years. When Democrats say, oh, this is national security, you can't alter U.S. foreign policy. Yes, you can. That's the definition of democracy. You change candidates or change presidencies. You have a choice. And part of the choice is you want a less militant foreign policy with Trump. That's how you go from Bernie Sanders to Trump. When a lot of people didn't understand how I went from Bernie Sanders to Trump, that wasn't my issue. That was their lack of knowledge, their lack of understanding. Okay? Maybe they just weren't knowledgeable enough or educated enough or aware of what Bernie 2016 was. That's embarrassing for me also, by the way. Because if you were on the left, the only choice, the anti-war choice, was that. Because you had literally the Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld people voting for Clinton. They voted for Biden. They voted for Harris. So that's why, Trump is the moral imperative if you don't want a nuclear confrontation. He's the least likely to engage in a never-ending military conflict. So if you want to say he's not really anti-war, man, okay, he's not a pacifist, but if you're a morally superior, highly educated, left-leaning person, you despise Trump, and you're like, he's not really anti-war. Okay, you put Donald Trump and you put Harris, and Dick Cheney voted for Kamala Harris. So what does that tell you? Who is the more militant of the two? If you put Clinton, Biden, and Harris on one side and Donald Trump on the other, who's more likely to start a never-ending military conflict? Well, it's obviously the Democrats I mentioned. We know this because all the Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld people voted for Democrats. And we know this because there's never-ending military conflict now after 4 years of Biden.
So this is just part of the challenge that faces Bill Barr. I will tell you it's an incredible challenge, but he has the opportunity to be perhaps the most consequential attorney general of our lifetime, because he's going to have the opportunity to try and restore the American people's confidence.
So, of course, that didn't happen, but, enter Pam Bondi 4 years later. Or 8 years later.
In a Justice Department that has been torn apart by the darkest chapters that have been written under the Comey, Lynch, McCabe era of the Justice Department and its component agencies like the FBI. I would certainly hope that in engaging in doing that, the first order of business for Bill Barr would be to address the byproduct of those senior leaders at the FBI and the Department of Justice that were trying to undermine the American election of 2016. And that byproduct is the Mueller investigation.
Right.
If Bill Barr's first action, Maria, is not to bring in Bob Mueller and say, the American public has been consumed with this for 2 years, and this idea of collusion between Donald Trump and the Russians. After 2 years, either you have evidence of it or you don't. And if you do...
By the way, did they investigate Trump's claims 4 years ago for 2 years? No. There have been defamation cases, there have been lawsuits against Trump and criminal investigations and criminal charges against Trump. Based on what? They said categorically he was false. He made false statements. Well, how long did you investigate? Well, we had an investigation on a state level, and all of his claims have been proven false. 2 years of Mueller. 2 years of Robert Mueller. Where Democrats were saying, Mueller time. 2 years of Mueller. For accusations that had no evidence. With Trump's accusations, there's a plethora of evidence, actually, none of which was pursued by government agencies. But with Trump's accusations against Trump that were completely baseless, they were pursued endlessly. And then finally they admitted there was nothing there. But with Trump, when he makes an accusation without immediate evidence, it's, oh my God, false, and let's sue the you-know-what out of him.
Let's see it, and if you don't, let's make that clear to the American people so all of this can end and we can move forward with what the Department of Justice should be doing.
Yeah, but in the meantime, you've got people like Adam Schiff saying they're not going to slow down. They're going to expand the investigations into President Trump right now.
So what is...
So one of the people who will likely be indicted, there's probably going to be about 4, 5, 6, 7 people indicted within the first year and a half. I don't think he's going to wait. I don't even know. There might not even be a special counsel. There could be indictments immediately because once they declassify the information, they don't have to tell people they're declassifying also. Once they gather the information, once Pam Bondi has the information, could take 2 months, could take 4 months, could take 5 months, could take a month and a half, okay? They could be writing out the indictments like that old Mad Libs game where remember Mad Libs? Where they go ahead and where they just fill in the blanks in terms of information or classified data they know was classified data they know was classified simply to hide motive and intent to set up and frame Trump. Okay, so let's continue.
Welcome back. More of my exclusive interview right now with Congressman John Ratcliffe, member of the House Intel, Judiciary, and Homeland Security committees. He's been asking some tough questions in this public impeachment inquiry hearing last week. And Congressman, before I get to the IG report, because I want to get your thoughts on what we're going to hear from this IG report, which is now, I guess, scheduled for early December. But one thing that I noticed this past week, are you guys not under oath in Congress in that room? For example, Adam Schiff, you've said that you want Adam Schiff to come down and testify under oath. Does that mean that what we're hearing from Adam Schiff in these public hearings, he's not under oath? He can say whatever he wants?
Yeah, he's not sworn in as a witness as we preside over these hearings, or he presides over these hearings.
By the way, when they start a special counsel or when they indict him, he'll have to be under oath. So he'll eventually have to be under oath, either on a witness stand or within a special counsel. Then you get possible perjury. I mean, you can't spend, if you're a California senator or if you're any government official, you can't spend 8 years saying that Trump worked with the Kremlin, saying that there was evidence when there wasn't evidence. Okay, you're lying to the American people, and you're doing so knowingly. And that's a violation of federal law. There are statutes at 18 U.S. Code 371. I believe that's the one. No, yeah, 18 U.S. Code 371. Or is that the classified? I believe that's the one where you can't use your government position to lie.
Much of what he is saying to the American people is just not true, and I know it's not true. We know that it's not true. We'd like him to testify. I think Congressman Collins is going to ask for that when the House Intelligence Committee sends a report to the Judiciary Committee.
Right.
I doubt that Chairman Nadler is going to allow that. This,
okay,
as you use the word, railroaded this through. I don't think they're going to allow that. They should. And I think that's just unfortunate, but it's another reason why this is going to be dead on arrival in the Senate. The most important witnesses, including Adam Schiff, are not going to be testifying.
I'm going to speak with Congressman Doug Collins in a few minutes, and I'm going to ask him about that. But it struck me because I guess that's why he could say, well, we haven't seen the whistleblower, we don't know who the whistleblower is, and then a couple of weeks later we find out, oh, well, actually, no, my staff did meet with the whistleblower. He doesn't get in trouble for that because he can say what he wants because he's not under oath. Just want to make that clear. The IG report, Congressman, when do you expect it? You've been studying the origins of the Russia probe. You and your colleagues now for 3 years have done a great job in terms of exposing the wrongdoing that took place in 2016. What should we expect from this report?
Well, I do think it's going to be the first week of December. Bill Barr said it's imminent. I think, I would love it if it came out sooner because, to your earlier point, Maria, the Democrats are racing to get through this impeachment as quickly as possible. That's why we have 8 witnesses and 5 hearings this week, and we're not doing any of the work, is because they know that Inspector General report is likely to be damning about the origins of the 2016 investigation into the Trump campaign, the role that the Obama-Biden administration officials played in that. Look, we know this. The report is supposedly 500 pages. It doesn't take an Inspector General 500 pages to say that everything was done correctly and properly. And I can't tell you everything that's in there, but what I can tell you is that I know that the Inspector General is going to have to find that there were things that were done wrong, that there was exculpatory information that wasn't provided to the FISA court. And I think it's going to be an indictment of Adam Schiff, who has written his own FISA rebuttal memo, if you remember back in January of 2018, saying, how dare Republicans criticize people like Peter Strzok and Lisa Page and Andy McCabe and Bruce Orr, who have done nothing wrong. I think that the IG report's going to find that there were problems in the FISA application process, and they don't want that to come out until after they've impeached the president.
So there are numerous interviews with Pam Bondi, obviously Matt Gaetz, now John Ratcliffe, and others focusing on California senator. Why? Now, all of these people are in positions of not only influence, they're the top of Trump's cabinet. The top leaders, whether it's John Ratcliffe as Central Intelligence, Pam Bondi as Attorney General, the next Federal Bureau of Investigation chief, you have all of these people who have been focused, Matt Gaetz, who've been focused on California senators' statements about Trump. And now you have potential criminal activity being unearthed through declassifying information. And Trump's, look, there's talk of declassifying a whole bunch of information. A whole bunch of information. Okay? Why do you think Hollywood is so far up the Democratic Party's political apparatus? We'll just talk about that. Just say it like that. Why do you think there's such a union between two of the epicenters of immorality? Hollywood, California. Well, Hollywood, California is a beautiful place. Okay, beautiful people. I'm talking about Hollywood, the industry, where most people are fantastic people. Most people are good people. But the top Hollywood celebrities who went after Trump, producers, directors, celebrities, the culture within that industry, leveled against Trump. You have to ask yourself, well, okay, some people are doing it because they've been indoctrinated into thinking that, they're the people fighting against authoritarianism, as they actively push to censor others and actively push for never-ending military conflict with their votes. But why is De Niro always going after Trump? Why do you have celebrities, musicians, why are they always obsessed with Trump? They weren't obsessed with George W. Bush. They weren't obsessed with Biden or President Obama, who was far more militant. I always thought liberals were against endless wars. I guess that's not the case anymore. That hasn't been the case for a long time. But you have Democrats and Hollywood, this union where you always seeing certain individuals, very powerful individuals, doing the most despicable things and getting away with it for a long, long time. Anyway, something to think about regarding Trump declassifying a whole bunch of stuff.
Wow. In fact, we've got a letter here from Adam Schiff to Devin Nunes, the ranking member on Intel, saying, look, we want all of these hearings specifically to be only about the Ukraine phone call. We don't want anything about Hunter Biden, and we don't want anything about any, he writes, quote, debunked interference into the 2016 election. Debunked. When I look at what's happening, you've got an investigation at the highest level of our law enforcement. That's the Attorney General investigating 2016 election and interference by potentially the FBI and the CIA. You've also got John Durham's investigation, now a criminal investigation. So I ask you, what exactly is debunked about 2016 interference, which is what Adam Schiff writes? I guess he's not under oath to write this letter either, right?
He's not, in fact, and it's not debunked, and I think the IG report is going to validate Chairman at the time Chairman Nunes's FISA memo that highlighted the abuses. Look, I can tell you this. I can't tell you what the exculpatory information is that relates to George Papadopoulos, but there was some, and I can tell you that it was not timely delivered to the FISA court during the pendency of those FISA applications. And I'll promise you that the Inspector General report is going to address that. That's just one thing.
Well, we think we know that. Our audience, in fact, does know that because we have had George Papadopoulos on, and your former colleague Trey Gowdy, basically saying that there was an informant who went to George Papadopoulos and said, "Oh, it's great that Russia has these emails. It's good for Trump." And George Papadopoulos answers and says, "No, it isn't. That's treason. I would never do something like that." And the guy was wired. It was an informant talking to him, and that transcript should be one of the pieces of evidence we're expecting in the IG report. That's what you're referring to, aren't you?
You should read George Papadopoulos' book. I believe it's on Amazon. I think everybody should. I think everybody should read it. I read it a while back. Let's see. What's the name of it again? How I Got Caught in the Crosshairs of the plot to bring down the President Trump. Okay, so it's on Amazon, and you know what? I'm going to get it right now. I am going to get it right now. I'm getting it on my phone right now. It's a very, very good book. I'm going to read it again. I urge everyone to buy George Papadopoulos' book. Okay? Deep State Target, George Papadopoulos on Amazon. It's not expensive at all. It's very affordable. And it's a very, 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 very good. I think it's a wonderful Christmas read. A wonderful holiday cheer. How an innocent man gets set up by his own government, by our wonderful, God bless, I love the country, God bless the USA. Thank God we have, a sane, rational, honorable man in Donald Trump. That sounds completely blasphemous and ridiculous to Democrats, but Trump was innocent of everything they leveled against him. We know this because he's not in prison. You could say, well, he got out of it. No. He was indicted 1 billion times. If there was a shred of evidence, he would have been imprisoned. Democrats, on the other hand, got away with an infinite amount of, 50 intel officials lying through their teeth. You have government officials getting fired, resigning, going after Trump, accusing him of everything under the sun. And at the end of the day, they went after Trump with the equivalent of a dossier. Let's say a dossier purchased by Clinton and the DNC, but let's say Rudy Giuliani and Trump purchased a dossier that said that Biden or Harris or President Obama or Hillary were in a hotel room and they had a certain type of bathing activity. Imagine the uproar. Imagine if BuzzFeed published a dossier purchased by Rudy Giuliani. That's exactly what took place. BuzzFeed published a dossier purchased by Clinton's attorneys or Clinton's team and the DNC. And they said it's unverified. And they were sued and they got out of it by saying, well, it was a government investigation. And these are the people who consider themselves more honorable than Trump. When Trump presided over record low poverty and did not destroy a country like President Obama did, like Bush did, and honestly, like Biden has presided over. They say, well, it's not Biden's fault. Well, yeah, we're actually not at liberty to really talk about it, to tell you the truth, even on this platform, so whatever. But yeah, Trump is infinitely a better... Trump, you take President Obama with Libya, destroying Libya with a failed intervention, and Donald Trump. Trump is infinitely a better human being. Oh, but he insults people. Yeah, and President Obama's intel agencies accused innocent people of something they didn't do. George Papadopoulos included. Buy his book. Fantastic book.
I believe that will be addressed by the Inspector General, and whether that was timely delivered to the FISA court. And assuming all of that is true, and we'll let the report speak for itself, then what you'll see is probably a shifting Democratic narrative saying, well, it didn't make any difference.
All right. Are you expecting...
There are genuine questions about
Sorry, go ahead. Finish your thought.
No, there are legitimate questions from those of us that have seen the classified documents about the origins of the 2016 investigation. It's, I think, unraveling, and that's why they're rushing to impeach the president. They failed to impeach him for being a Russian agent because it was a joke. They failed to impeach him for obstructing justice because it was a joke. And this impeachment hoax based on a phone call with a president of the Ukraine who says, I'm not a victim, nothing happened, is also a hoax.
So we're going to talk with Democrat coming up, Jeff Van Drew from New Jersey. He was one of two who voted against the impeachment inquiry. Real quick before you go, Congressman, do you expect this vote for impeachment in December? What are you expecting in terms of when the House votes to impeach President Trump?
Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff are racing to get this done. That's why we have 5 impeachment hearings this week with 8 different witnesses. They're racing the clock. They want to get this done before information that comes out that damages the Obama-Biden administration and their efforts to frame Donald Trump come out in the IG report or from John Durham's criminal investigation into those very same issues.
All right. We will be watching.
So it's really important to watch John Ratcliffe's prior statements on all of this. And that's why you should hit subscribe to this channel if you're new, because I'm really going to focus on prior statements from Ratcliffe, Pam Bondi, and others. These are the people now in charge. Okay, they tried to set up and frame Trump. They were not successful because he was innocent. Their primary goal was to imprison Donald Trump. Their secondary goal was to get as many Americans indoctrinated and to get as many Americans deceived to believe that Trump is a bad human being and he's a Kremlin operative, he's a national security problem. Well, it didn't work, because at the end of the day, you could say whatever you want. If inflation goes up and mortgage rates double, people don't care. They're eventually going to vote their pocketbook. And also, Trump was innocent, so.
All the interviews, and sir, good morning to you, and thank you for coming back. I want to try and move this forward. We believe public hearings will happen, perhaps within 2 weeks. Who is the strongest witness for Adam Schiff? Who would he call first?
Well, it wouldn't be Adam Schiff, even though he's a material witness.
Coach O'Connor, happy Thanksgiving to you, sir. Let me see if I can still do it. John Brennan. I don't do evidence, I do intelligence. The amusing transatlantic accent. The Martha's Vineyard accent. I don't do evidence, I do intelligence. No, I'm messing it up. John Brennan. Coach O'Connor, thank you.
I don't know who the Democrats would bring forward because there hasn't been any witness who has credibly put forth any information that would support that something illegal happened on the call. As Catherine Herridge just reported, Tim Morrison was just the latest to confirm that there was nothing illegal or improper. Witness after witness that the Democrats have brought in have expressed concerns about the policy of Donald Trump, but can't articulate any high crime or impeachable offense. So I'm eager for public hearings. I'm eager for the public viewing of what's been happening behind closed doors. And again, Adam Schiff ought to be the first witness to testify as a material fact witness.
I was going to ask you who you would call first. I think you just answered that question. What I'm trying to drive at here, sir, is who makes their case the best? You've heard all the evidence so far. Who is it?
Well, again, think about it this way, Bill. Yesterday, Democrats passed a resolution to give Chairman Schiff the most authority in the impeachment process moving forward. Adam Schiff is someone who has tried to impeach the president not once, not twice, but now 3 times. The first time he accused the president of treason and said he had evidence to support collusion with Russia. That wasn't true. Then he said we should impeach the president because he obstructed justice and promised Bob Mueller would breathe life into that until Bob Mueller admitted that his obstruction analysis was under a legal standard and burden of proof that didn't exist. So now we're on to fake impeachment effort number 3, surrounded by a whistleblower who first met with, yeah, that's right, the staff of Chairman Schiff. The details of that haven't been released. Chairman Schiff won't release the Inspector General's sworn testimony, which will confirm the contacts between Chairman Schiff and the whistleblower. It's like this, Bill. If we had a trial, the person who planted fake evidence shouldn't be the one ruling on the admissibility of fake evidence.
So you're making the case here there was nothing illegal. It was just a question of policy disputes.
So the California senator was very powerful for a long time. He was actually more powerful before than he is now a senator. So he had media was a lot more respected 8 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years ago. 2 years ago, it had already fallen off a cliff in terms of trust. So 4 years ago was the apex, the last hurrah for media. With Twitter and the you know what and the hysteria regarding Trump, and it was the last moment that people cared what media said about anything. And then for 4 years, we saw Biden and Harris completely tank the economy and foreign policy. And then Trump won the popular vote, every battleground state, the Senate, the House, the presidency, and he has the Supreme Court. And people tired, and there was fatigue of just fringe ideological theories that Democrats and media pretend to care about. They have to latch on to something because, I mean, my theory is that, and that's fine, like I love Christopher Hitchens, and if you're an atheist, fantastic, great. But if your religion is politics, there's no point in being an atheist. If you latch on, if you think that politics gives you like spiritual sustenance or makes you moral as a human being, you're very likely a buffoon or imbecile because you don't realize all the good things that Trump, voting for Trump and Vance will do for the country. If you're ignorant as to all the good things in terms of the economy and foreign policy that Trump will bring and has brought, you're likely an imbecile. But again, it can't be a purely moral decision to vote Democrat if the alternative, there are good things. Okay, Democrats like to say, oh, it's the end of the world if... No. Nuclear confrontation, that happened with Biden and Harris. So Democrats focus on one global issue, ignore the most pressing when Noam Chomsky of the far left, okay, very respected, renowned professor on the left, number one. Number two is the thing that Democrats, of course, media, okay, there's a big obsession about the planet. Very important. Even I agree, it's very important. Number one is nuclear confrontation. Of the two that could end the planet, number one is nuclear confrontation. That even Noam Chomsky lists as number one. And it's Biden and Harris that brought us closer to it. Anyway, hit subscribe to this channel. God bless you all. Stay safe on the roads, everybody. The reason that, it's important to watch John Ratcliffe, it's not old news. It's really important because it's actually today's news. Every interview with John Ratcliffe, Matt Gaetz, Pam Bondi, even Rudy Giuliani and others, he'll make a comeback too. You watch, Giuliani will make a comeback. Okay, that's a case study in a fall from power, but also hopefully the same type of rebound as Trump. But these prior interviews are extremely relevant to today. They're all leading the intel agencies that went after Trump. They can declassify all the exculpatory evidence that was withheld from Trump and others. Buy George Papadopoulos' book. It's fantastic. Anyway, God bless you all. I'll see you tomorrow, everybody. Thanks so much. Happy Thanksgiving. Coach O'Connor, thank you. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.